Welcome to the Romanian River channel and my first impressions of the updates on Stellaris since the past year or so, since I have done any sort of coverage on the game, to be honest. Which the last coverage was of the humanoids pack, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, details. Basically, I've been playing the game for about 30 to 40 hours again in the last couple of weeks, more or less a month now, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I've been really learning a lot of things, to be honest. Like, for example, the whole planetary change, as it's mentioned in the blurb there, the tiles, changing from tiles to districts and buildings and so on. That was took a good bit of relearning, especially with the new resource system. Then the trade system is also interesting, but could use some development and so on. Basically, the game's gotten a hell of a lot deeper and actually a bit more, put this, fair in terms of difficulty, because I've been able to actually compete amicably with the computer at around captain level. Well, actually more than amicably. I've been curve stomping most of my neighbors, or befriending them in federations. You'll see that later in the video. But how should I put this? I think I'd recommend, if you're particularly skilled like I am in terms of at least tactics or playing the meta, to go with Commodore or possibly above. Personally, the 40 hours I did play were on captain level, and with the settings you guys will see a bit further on in the video, it was freaking easy, to be honest. I mean, I just bribed the first alien species I met both times, both games, because I played the games up until mid to late game. And the first species I met more or less became my Federation buddy in both games, to be honest. And I'm not particularly friendly in terms of, how should I put this, ethics and general structure of the species, because I've gone with more of a role-playing flavor to it, so I can also get an idea of my upcoming plan for a meta series of Let's Plays will actually work with the full roleplay experience, so to say, but that's besides the point. Oh, slide to mention here, you'll see in the top right corner in a couple of moments, there it is, the list of DLCs I have besides the base game. So basically, if you want this sort of experience that you'll see in the game, or in the video per se, to the fullest extent I've had, because my opinion is based on the game with those DLCs, you'll basically need to fork out more than just the base game version. But yeah, let's take a quick look at the settings, because yeah, those are kind of important as well. Now, one thing to notice first and foremost is that I'm running windowed at 720p. The video is 1440p. That is because the game, while running in windowed 720, is actually running at 1080 due to VSR. It's kind of weird, but it works, so I'm not gonna judge it. Now, multi-sample and so on, pretty much same as about a year ago, more or less, though the graphics have gotten a bit more blingy, so to say, overall. Oh, and the autosave, I would suggest keeping it to quarterly. Semi-annually can land you in a lot of shite. Now, in terms of what I've done of creating my own really friendly species, is pretty much, yeah, you guys can guess where I'm gonna be going with this particular race in the future. Yeah. In any case, the Greater Romanian Commonwealth is quite a lovely bunch, so to say. Besides that, in terms of visuals and so on, with the DLCs, you get quite a wee bit more of extra customization. And I believe they've also included extra customization options in terms of portraits and so on in the base game as well. Though certain things like the humanoids, I'm pretty sure, possibly even some of the molluscoids, if memory serves, were DLC specific. There you noticed as well that I have one mod active with the game, which just adds Imperium of Man names for extra benefits, so to say. Because yeah, roleplay and everything. that actually went in the second game. The first game was done with more or less standard names, but yeah. Overall in here, besides extra advisor voice packs, so to say, not much has changed. One thing I do kind of dislike at the current time is the lack of flag customization options. I really would want to see a VLC on that. And extra bits of ruler customization wouldn't be hurtful either. Now, before anything else, let's take a look at general idea of how settings go. Now, this would be the settings I've played with more or less during the first and second playthrough I've done, minus the Iron Man mode and Commodore not being Commodore. That's from the third aborted attempt, didn't have enough time to actually do it. Captain is where I played at, basically. Normal aggressiveness, placement and so on, basically trying to keep it as fair as possible both for myself and for the AI as well, to be honest. The whole galactic geography thing they're going for when they tweaked territory control back last year actually plays really well with everything else that's been going on with the content patches and so on, and the DLCs of course. Now basically the game will force you to actually make strategic decisions which will impact how well you go about things, but basically basic gist of it is, if you're going to try and go for a small but potent how should I put this, empire, you're going to be best served by, how should I put this, bottlenecking areas, going for the bottleneck areas. That will also mean you go with fewer hyperspace lanes in the settings for the game before you actually begin it, but yeah, that's part 2. Now, as you can see in the background, this I'm showing what the differences are in terms of districts and how they play out. Basically, districts either give you, they usually give you some dwellings and some, I should put this, jobs. Even standard city districts give you, I can't remember what the name of it was, but basically a type of job related to it. Less jobs than agricultural or industrial and so on, but yeah. Now in terms of territory control, at the current time they did away completely with the whole outpost thing. Now just you build outposts, but those outposts can be upgraded into star bases. Like for example Sol Station, which is a shipyard, thanks to it having a shipyard, is basically an upgraded outpost. Outposts are no longer just a station in the middle of nowhere. As mentioned earlier, there are quite a few more new resources, so to say. Besides the old food, minerals and energy, you have consumer products, alloys, and yeah. Those basically go like this. Consumer products you use to keep your citizenry more or less happy, while food keeps them alive and baseline happy, basically, while alloys are used in ship construction and base construction. Minerals now are more for districts and other sort of activities, so to say. Now in this advanced game, which I believe is the second playthrough, if I'm not mistaken, I think so, yeah, pretty much as a second playthrough, you guys can see a tech world, which is the how's it even pronounced? Ecumenopolis? Basically city-sized or planet-sized city that you get with the First League in its home system. Yeah, no, the First League is actually worth freaking doing. That said, in terms of control and so on, one thing you will have to be careful of when building your empire is you now have disadvantages for having a big empire. Like for example, if you have 60 systems under your control with, let's say, just 8 planets, things get kind of retarded in terms of upkeep and so on. And if those systems are not not connected between them, it gets even worse. You get disadvantages in terms of research, upkeep with bases and fleets, and etc. etc. Even baseline things like recruiting new leaders gets more expensive. The factions in and of themselves are pretty normal, to be honest. Yeah, I tend to actually do a bit of running around in terms of the visuals in the background, but that's more or less to show you guys what's been happening in the game, so on and so on. Oh yeah, and in terms of war declarations, now you actually need claims, which is a bit less easy to do. You can't do without claims, especially if you have a more militaristic or genocidal race, but every other guys need some sort of reason to go to war, like a colony you lost to them, and so on and so on. Like, for example, I lost Bapa, how do I even pronounce that? Bapagia Prime to the Babaki Unity. Don't worry, they got curb stomped later on. And yeah, the Unity and so on is mostly unchanged, though the Ascension perks are getting proactively tweaked even to this current day. Like, for example, how should I put this? Let me just think. Yeah, the habitat trait you need from the Unity Ascension perks is actually being moved into a technology requirement soon. The Ascension perk will just improve those habitats, but you won't be required to actually get the Ascension perk to have habitats. So in the future, small pocket empires like my own, because to be honest, as you saw earlier, it's kind of small, will be even more potent. And you don't really have that much of a problem even with lower end habitational planets or habitable planets in your small pocket of space, because the terraforming itself has also gotten a wee bit easier on the micromanagement side. You just need, like, what was it? At most 5,000 energy, and you just in the technology for it, to be honest. Because there's that baseline technology you need for terraforming, like from a desert to a aquatic. But then you also have special considerations for tumors and so on, additional technologies you need. It's not so much locked anymore by that whole, the fluids and the gases for terraforming. That was kind of freaking annoying. Now, let's see here. In terms of ship design and fleet management, things have gotten a wee bit more streamlined, and the AI, while not particularly competent when it comes to designing ships for specific tasks, can churn out a decently good option in terms of, universal. But in any case, in terms of overall improvements since 1.0, because I'm just going off 1.0 because that's what I remember most vividly, the game has improved markedly. Like, even baseline to baseline, the game itself at the current time is freaking fun. Actually, just to be honest, I didn't intend to play 40 plus hours. I intended to play about 20. But yeah, I couldn't stop playing. The one disadvantage I would actually say the game has at the current time, besides the kind of lack of depth at the trade area, because to be honest, I would like a bit more depth in the trade mechanics, with your interior empire trade or inter-empire trade routes. That I would like, a bit more commerce raiding and Q ships, stuff like that. A bit more depth. Because in the current time, those can't really be dicked around with as much. You do have pirates, but not that bad. Besides the AI's kind of incompetence when it comes to designing ships for specific tasks, at least in terms of at the level I played at it, which is Captain, yeah, the game's become even more fun than it was in the past. Granted, with the package I have in terms of overall price, it better freaking be that, because at full price everything would probably land you around 60 to 80 euros easy. It is worth it. I mean, with no experience in Stellaris, from this level onward, like from this level of development onward, you could probably play a couple of 100 hours easy before you actually got freaking bored. That's just me. There are people who would actually play this and be like, okay, I role-played as a genocidal race of humanoids, now let's play a genocidal race of robots. I.e. that starts as robots, not becomes one via the ascension perks like I am usually doing with my playthroughs. Granted, with the Greater Romanian Commonwealth, I'm just probably gonna stop at cyborgs and so on. But yeah, overall, the game, if you can afford the full package I have, as you saw earlier in the video, well, freaking worth it. Well, freaking worth it. If not, keep an eye on sales, and yeah, definitely recommend it if you're a 4X fan, especially. The lack of tactical depth, like I can do in Medieval 2 Total War, for example, is a bit grating for me as a tactical genius, but it gets kind of fun at a strategic level when you're poking around a captain level AI at the very least.
Thank you for watching, or more precisely surviving up until this point, because gods know the editing's kinda interesting and my voice has a melodic tone to it. If you like what you saw, feel free to hit the subscribe button, like button. It does help out the statistics of the channel, gets more visible, stuff like that. And to be honest, at one point I would like to actually make this a job so I can do better content with better quality, more games, more coverage, stuff like that. Take care.